Hello and welcome to the second part of the Model as a Master Pal training series for the Vermilion Association for Special Education and Middle Fork School. This is, like I said, this is part two. We're going to cover modeling. And here we go. Okay, so when we think about modeling, and we'll cover kind of what modeling is and what that all encompasses, we are thinking about speaking AAC all the time. We aren't waiting for our students to prove anything before we start modeling for them. So just a quick review of the model as a master pal. Um, Master PAL is an acronym that stands for motivate, accept multiple modalities, statements more than questions, time, both time for language development and wait time, engage naturally, response not required, presume potential, appropriate prompting, and then let the child lead. We speak AAC to support both receptive and expressive language skills. So when we use AAC, we are helping our students better understand what we're saying, in addition to showing them how to communicate using AAC. Okay, so we already covered what a master is and what a PAL is. We covered what AAC is, and remember that AAC is not just one single device or one single method. It's a whole system of methods and tools that we use to support somebody who is developing communication in a way that is kind of outside of what our typical developmental trajectory is. So yes, it's a whole system of methods and tools. It's not just one single thing. We talked about the Communication Bill of Rights and why we are providing AAC to our students, because our students have the right to be communicated with and responded to in a dignified manner, and to request, refuse, socially engage, obtain information about the world around them, seek assistance, and have some control over the interactions and activities in which they participate. Okay, so we're getting back to that modeling, and we're going to talk about what that is, what that looks like on a day-to-day basis, and how to do it. Okay, so basic definition. A model is a system or a thing used as an example to follow to develop a skill. A model is not an imitation task. So if I am modeling for you, I am not doing something and then expecting you to do it right after me. That is not modeling, that's asking you to imitate. So when we are modeling AAC, we are speaking our own words. We are not putting words into our students' mouths. So we are speaking our own words using AAC. Language is always learned through modeling. So think of a child in your life who you know or who you've raised personally, and think about what his or her first word was or their first word was. And how many times do you think the child heard that word before speaking it? So if we think of the word mama, starting from day one of that child's life, or if we think of the word dada, starting from day one of that child's life, how many times has that child heard mama or dada up until they first speak that word? Let's be generous. Let's say they speak it at 10 months. How many times over the course of 10 months have they heard the word mama or dada before they've ever spoken it? A lot, like more than 10, more than 20. If we're talking daily, around 300 times, right? And then there's also those experiences where a child uses a word or phrase or expression that's a direct imitation of a familiar adult right after you've said it maybe once, right? And those are typically the words that we don't want them to repeat. Um, Language is shaped by feedback about communicative attempts. So kids learn that what they are doing has meaning by adults and other people responding to them. So when you have a baby who says mama or baba or dada, the way that that baby starts to understand that the sounds mama mean mom or mama or mommy or whatever, is that the person that they're talking to might say, "Oh, yeah, I'm mama. You're right. Mama loves you." They repeat it. They confirm that they understood. They give that child feedback about their attempts. The things that change about the child's behavior after repeated feedback is they start to use that word or that sound or that phrase or that behavior more often, and they get some joint attention from the adult. So joint attention is when I'm paying attention to the same thing that you're paying attention to. So we're both attending to the same thing. And then we're also paying attention to each other and how we're all paying attention to the same thing. Okay, so here is a statistic on language acquisition for AAC users. Um, this is a statistic that's kind of a little bit soul crushing for me because as a speech therapist, I want to fix things and I want to be able to teach kids how to communicate. But this statistic tells me that I am not, I alone cannot do it, which is why I need the help of other grown-ups in the lives of our students. So a typically developing child gets 4,370 waking hours of spoken language input before they begin to speak at around 18 months. Even if we back it down to 12 months, they're still getting a lot of hours of spoken language before we ever expect them to speak. If we translate that over to our kids and our students who are using AAC, if a student who's learning to use AAC only gets input using their aided language tool 2 times a week for 20 to 30 minutes, it's going to take them 84 years to have the same amount of experience with their device as an 18-month-old child has with spoken language. So it's just math. There are not enough days in a year, there's not enough minutes in a day for me to be able to provide the level of input that a student is going to need on their AAC device in order to provide them all the input that we would expect would be needed in order for them to start to use their device. So modeling in natural situations all the time is crucial. Okay. But we also have to remember language doesn't magically happen when a device is in place. So if I were to put a device that looks like the one on the screen in front of you, you might be able to figure it out. It looks like it is in Spanish or potentially it's either Spanish or Portuguese. I'm not sure because I took German, but it's not in English. I'm not going to be able to functionally use that system without some modeling because I don't know the language that it's in. So just because we put a device in place does not mean that a student is going to understand the language system that's on that device. Okay. We are going to watch a quick video about aided language stimulation. I'm going to make sure that you are going to be able to hear the sound on it. Okay, so here we go.
created using Powtoon.
Okay. So that video kind of covered why we use aided language stimulation to help our students learn to communicate. Let me get my slide set back up. Make sure that I am on the right. Okay. Okay, so what does modeling do? Modeling teaches a child how to combine words to create and change meaning. So saying go means to go, right? But saying not go means the opposite. So combining those words changes the meaning a lot. Modeling teaches a child how to fix mistakes. So if you hit the wrong button on a communication device, you can model for a child how to erase it and say like, oops, I said the wrong word. Modeling teaches a child how to find words. So you can think aloud how you are going about finding a word that you're looking for on a device. So you might say, I'm looking for the word elephant. I really want to find the word elephant. I know that an elephant is an animal. So I'm going to go to the folder where I know animals are. And then I know elephants live in the zoo. So maybe it's under zoo animals. Oh, look, I found the elephant. So you can think aloud to model kind of how we organize language, how we categorize words. We might, if you're trying to find the word help, you could say, ooh, help is something that we do. So I know that help is an action word. Maybe I'm going to look in the action word section. Or if you have a system that's not organized in those kind of groups, you can just say, oh, I know that help is under this button. Then you touch it and then, oh, I go over here to find the word help. So it doesn't have to be as explicit, but you can kind of think through. Then if you don't know how to use a word, you can show a student how to use function tools on the talker, such as clear or back or home buttons. You can model how to use the search function on a device. And then while you're using that search function, you can model how you sound out words. So that might not be a skill that your student has yet, but by modeling it, you're showing them that there is a link between a written word and the icon that pops up on their device. Modeling also teaches a child how to control and influence their environment. Teaches them how to express individuality. So I use different words than a lot of the teachers in the building. I might use, I know when I get frustrated, I'll say, oh, nuts. And that's not something that everybody says when they get frustrated. But that's a way that I express individuality through my language. So on some of our students' talkers, we might have things like OMG programmed, because that's something that they have heard from a video or from something else, and it's a phrase that they find interesting and motivating. It teaches a child how to demonstrate understanding. So it teaches them how to respond to questions using a talker. It also helps them build and sustain interpersonal relationships. So it's a lot easier to maintain an interaction with somebody, excuse me, when there's some back and forth. Particularly, there's some language-based back and forth, and you're understanding some things that are in a person's brain that you might not have known. I'm going to need to take a drink. Give me just a second. Sorry about that. Okay, so language is really powerful. Oh, okay. Modeling teaches a child how to express their wants and needs. So things like requesting, teaches them how to engage in social closeness in different ways, teaches them how to comment on activities, teaches them how to appropriately refuse or express dissent, teaches them how to respond to questions and comments that people make, teaches them how to ask questions and how to seek information. It also teaches them how to share information. Language has multiple functions. Okay, so when we're thinking about modeling with AAC, we want to model as naturally as possible. So we want to speak our words using the AAC. Speaking the child's words with the device elicits imitation, not communication. So if I am telling a child what to say on their talker, they are not generating that message on their own. They are not communicating anything. They are imitating what I am doing. So we might need to use something like gestural cues or verbal encouragement to get a response out of a student. Communication is reciprocal. It goes back and forth. Okay, so the role of the communication partner is to show a child how to talk with their tool and provide them opportunities to do so. You cannot make somebody talk. All that you can do is provide opportunities for communication and connection. One thing that we have to remember is compliance is not communication. So just because a child has done something that you've asked them to do, just because they have touched a button on their talker that you've asked them to find, does not mean that they are communicating. That means that they are imitating or that they are complying with the direction. Okay, so here are a couple of videos. One is called Lily Gets New Words. So we're going to watch that one first.
Words. I like this. Yes, you want to wear them? Okay, let me show you. They go right here on your arm.
Yay!
Yay! That's exciting, Lily. Look at that. Yay! Look. Yeah. I like it. Do you like it?
No.
No! You don't want it on? I think you do like it.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for showing it to me.
Okay, so with that video of Lily, we see that the teacher has put like a little cuff on her wrist that has some basic words on it. And she is using that to model for Lily. The I like it, do you like it? And Lily is not using it to respond. She's using her spoken language, which is awesome, but we don't know what her ability is with spoken language. So she might not be able to say things like, I like it. She might be able to say no and bye. But giving her those words on her wrist gives her access to increased vocabulary. Okay, this next video is about modeling core language in a classroom setting. So let me get that set up.
Yes! Thumbs up. Today is going to be a good day. Okay, are you ready? Guess what? Guess what? We got something. But we do not know what in it.
Good.
Wait a second. Wait. Whoa! What do I have? What did we get? I cannot imagine. What should I do? I should break it open. I think I should break open? You think I should open it? And should I take out whatever is inside? Ooh, it's so exciting. You want to listen? Go sit down. I'll bring it to you.
Me.
Okay, me too. What could it be? What could it be?
Okay, so that was just a quick demonstration of how you can use, this is not modeling on an individual's device, but it's using modeling, oh, sorry, using modeling for a class-wide activity. Okay, give me one moment to get my slides set up here again. Okay, so modeling has to be more than just labeling. So labeling helps build vocabulary, and by labeling, I mean just looking at objects in the picture and naming them. But labeling limits meaning making. So here's an example. Looking at this picture on the slide, if we're labeling, we would say things like, look at that girl, boy, and say tree, ooh, ladder, bridge, and water. So we've got 6 words there. But other than just naming those things, we haven't really talked about a whole lot about what's going on in that picture. So when we start to add in other types of words besides just labels, we add in a lot more meaning. We give some color, some action to the picture. So here we go. What that would look like for this picture is by saying, "Ooh, look, they play. Ooh, he is high. In the tree. Oh, climb it. Go over." And then cool water. So we can describe things. We can talk about what is happening, what people are doing. Those are all ways to expand the types of words that we are giving to students. Okay, so we want to be using descriptive language. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about this later, and we talked a little bit about it in the first module too. So core vocabulary are those words that those little words that we use kind of across settings, across activities. So in your in your folder, you should have some core communication boards. One of them, give me just a second. Let me stop sharing my screen so that you can see this. One of them looks something like that. And the other one looks more like this poster that I've got over here on my wall. One of them is similar to Lamp Boards for Life, and one of them is similar to TD Snap, or what we call Snap Core First. These are core language boards. They have pretty basic words, words that are considered core words because they are those little words that make up a majority of what we say, as opposed to fringe vocabulary, which in this slide you see is are denoted by these red, like by the red text. So if we're talking about using core vocabulary or using a core language board in a daily routine like mealtime or snack time, you might model something like you want, and then just say out loud, an apple. You want apple. So I'm looking at my core board. I'm pointing to you. You want an apple. I could say, that looks good, or yum. I could say, I like that with my core language board. I could say, do you need help opening? This one doesn't have open right on this, but I could say, do you need some help? I could say, oh, not that. You don't like that. Not that. We could say, that's my friend. That's my friend. Say, how is your day going? We don't have that on here, but some some might have the words or a phrase that just says, how is your day going? I could say, did you see that episode of SpongeBob SquarePants? You could say, I cannot wait for art class. So you use the words that you have available, and you would model the words that you had available and that you had easy access to. It doesn't mean that you're modeling every single word that's coming out of your mouth, because that can be really hard. But also, if you're able to, it's really beneficial sometimes to just go nonverbal and just use a communication system to model, particularly if that communication system has some speech output. Okay. So another daily routine where you could do some modeling with core language is while they're unpacking a bag. While they're unpacking their backpack in the morning, you could say something like, get it out, get it out, or get more. We could say, oh, that too, get that. We could say, put it in here. So put it in your locker. We can say all done or finished. We're finished getting ready. We can ask, do you want help? Or you can say, you can do that. Say, look what I have. Look what I have. You can even say, are you ready? Okay, let's go in. So all of the things that I pointed to are words that are on this board. I know that's very small for you guys to see. But you can do a lot of modeling with something that just has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 7 times 12, 77, 84, 84 icons. So that's quite a few icons, but you can model quite a few things with 84 icons. And this is tiny. It fits on my lanyard. Core vocabulary and a leisure activity, something like building blocks, like magnetiles or Legos. You can say, put on more. It goes up, up, up. Put it there. Does it go? It comes or it falls down. Look at that. Get the yellow one. Get that. My turn. You do it. So a lot of these are words that are going to be on your core language boards. Can I help? These are all things that you can say that contain core vocabulary during those times. While you're reading a book or a magazine, you could say things like, I like or I don't like that. You can say, let me see, look at that, turn it, what's next, what is it or what is that? Get another or get more, not that, or I want something different, or like, I don't want that. So those are all things that you can say with core language during a reading activity. We want to provide ample opportunities for meaningful engagement for our students. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to use routines to build in no planning needed communication opportunities. So things like greetings and offering predictable opportunities to share information. So I have let me see if I can find it. I like for one of the things, for one of the activities that I do with just about all of my students, not just my students that are using AAC, is we just do a quick daily question whenever they come in. It's usually actually a weekly question. But they get a chance to, I ask them, what do you like? Do you like bald eagles or black eagles? They get to answer. I've got the visual model right there. I like bald eagles, and they put their name on a whiteboard underneath whatever they've chosen. And then they get an opportunity to ask me, what do you like? And I answer back, I like whatever I like. There's no right answer to this. It doesn't matter if they like bald eagles or black eagles. It doesn't matter what they answer. What matters is they're engaging. They're answering a question, right? They're communicating something to me. So that's a really simple information sharing routine that you can do with like a whole class at check-in or something like that. Similar to how we do the check-ins with the zones of regulation, you could do something like that for like an attendance question in the morning. We want to set up the environment for communication opportunities. So some people may or may not be comfortable with some of these suggestions. It's totally a personal choice. So you can place desirable items in sight, but out of reach. So it's what we call, creating a communication temptation. And it's not always intentional. Like sometimes that's just the way storage happens in your classroom. Like maybe snacks get stored in a cabinet that gets locked, and that's just how it is. So in order for kids to have access to that, they would need to request in some way, or need to say in some way that that's what they want, or they like that. During activities, you can try to manage the materials needed to complete or participate in a task. So don't just give everything all at once. One, because that can be really overwhelming for some students to have all the materials out in front of them. So give them just one or a few things at a time. Have them pull items from a bin. Leave out a key piece to invite commenting or requesting. And some of these things just happen naturally. I tend to be really forgetful. So sometimes I don't have everything that I need. I can model during that time, like, oops, I forgot, or oops, it's missing. Oops, I need to get it. So things like not providing spoons when you give pudding, or forgetting crayons for a coloring activity. Sometimes when you do this too much, it can be really frustrating for students. So I wouldn't use these all the time, but sometimes they can be used to kind of create a situation where somebody might want to communicate about something. At the very least, you would be able to model. You can also teach repair strategies. So you can express things like, I know that you're trying to tell me something, but I just don't understand. Is there a different way that you can tell me? Can you show me what you're talking about? Can you say it in a different way? Where is it? Asking them to kind of talk around whatever it is that you can't quite understand, while telling them, like expressing to them, like, what you're trying to tell me is important. I want to understand, but I don't understand. So I need you to help me so that I can figure out what it is that you're talking about. You can surprise the child by using items unconventionally to elicit comments. So you might, I'll do one that's not quite as silly as the ones that are on the slide, like putting a hat on your foot, but maybe you go and you write with your pen upside down and it's not working. And your student has to kind of be like, not like that. No, not like that. So that's kind of a way that you can be a little bit silly to try to elicit some communication or some language, or even just a reaction. It doesn't always have to be language. It can just be a reaction like, ah, and then encourage them to tell you how it should be. Or if they're having a difficult time with that, encourage them to show you how it should be. You can provide opportunities for choice making. So allowing students to select colors, materials, peers that they get to work with or hang out with or sit near, tasks that they get to complete, or the order that they get to complete tasks in throughout their day. Always giving your students an out. So no is a valid choice. It's a choice that we have to accept, that our kids can make, and we want them to teach, or we want to teach them that they can say no, and that their no should be respected, or at least responded to. There might be consequences for a no, but we need our kids to know that they can say no, and that their no is powerful. So allowing your child to say, I want something different, gives them some autonomy from the choices that are presented by you. So if they say, I want something different, and that's not really an option, you can still honor and say, I understand that you don't want either of these, but these are the options that we have. So don't get mad at them for saying no, or for saying that they want something different. That just is what it is. But by honoring what they've said to you or indicated to you, you're showing them that their communication is powerful and that their communication has an impact on you. And then you can expand the interaction with a comment or by offering more information. So maybe they say something like, I want to go to the sensory room. And they indicate, maybe they aren't using a whole sentence, but maybe they say, sensory room. You can say, oh, I wonder what you want to do in the sensory room. I wonder if you want to swing, or if you want to play in the sensory table. I wonder which one of those things you want to do. Or you could say, "Ooh, yeah, I love the sensory room." So that would be giving a comment, offering more information. If the sensory room is closed, or they're not supposed to go to the sensory room until later in the day, you can offer more information. I know you want to go to the sensory room, but right now there's another student using it. We can't go in there. I'm sorry. We'll go later. Or I know you want to go to the sensory room. It's on your schedule for after math. We can go in the sensory room after math. You can establish expectations. So you can use explicit turn taking between a student and a communication partner to invite the student to take a turn. So when I was talking about that daily question, there's explicit turn taking there. I have my name card that I need to put up on the board. And the way that the student gets their name card up on the board is I ask them the question. The way that I get my name up on the board is that a student asks me the question. So that's an explicit turn taking kind of activity. We can use nonverbal strategies such as an expectant pause or an expectant look. So that's really like, I wonder what you like to do. And then just waiting. So counting to 10 in your head, you might look at them. You might draw attention to a choice board or to their communication device by pointing. So giving them that time and letting them know with your pause that you're expecting them to respond. They're not required to respond, but you're expecting them to respond. Okay. I'm going to skip over this, but I think it's useful to take one of the core communication boards that's in your folder and think about different activities that you have throughout the day, whether that's or um, lunch or recess or gym, uh, morning meeting, anything like that, where you could do some class-wide modeling or where you could do some modeling with an individual student, and what that might look like. Okay, so here showing, do you put all that in? So maybe for, I don't know, if you have a student who's helping prep materials for something, do you put all that in? Like that's a decent long sentence that you can create with some pretty basic words. This board only has 36 words on it. Okay. So ultimately, engagement is the foundation of learning. For students to achieve active engagement, they should be active participants in the learning process. They should demonstrate their understanding in a variety of ways, and they should be engaged in learning. So natural aided language elicits active engagement. So students with complex communication needs often have very few opportunities to engage in verbal discourse about their learning. So learning interactions tend to be limited to choice making and questioning. So what do you want? Show me this. Make a choice between these two. Questioning often takes the form of testing. Show me the apple. Show me this. Do this. So we're doing, is it correct or incorrect? With communication, it doesn't have to be either. It can just be an exchange of information. We always want to teach students amply before we test. So before we are ever expecting our students to demonstrate competence with their communication device, we need to be teaching amply. This is the same for any sort of classroom instruction that you're giving, whether it's communication or any other subject. You want to have a lesson sequence with vocabulary and concepts. You want to review background knowledge that might be needed in order to understand those concepts. You want to provide context, so helping kids understand why or where this falls into their world. You want to explain all the different topics. You want to expand on them, and then you want to review them before you ever expect a kid to demonstrate their knowledge. So you can invite participation with multimodal presentations, manipulatives, interactive tools, and then you can test for understanding. Okay, so there are 5 ways to speak AAC. The first is to use verbal referencing to describe an individual's actions, expressions, etc., using self-talk and think aloud, commenting, being responsive, and then attributing meaning to build connections. So the first way, verbal referencing, is so the 3 steps are observing, giving your verbal reference, and then attributing meaning. So if you're working with a student and they're smiling, you're observing, you see that they're smiling, you give that verbal reference. I see you smiling. Then you're going to attribute some meaning to it. I think you like it. I see you smiling. I think you like that. I see you laughing, or I hear you laughing. I think you think that book is funny. Observe, you have a student looking out the window. You are looking out the window. Do you see the birds or do you see the cars? You observe a child reaching out for a puzzle. You are reaching for the puzzle. Let's play it. Let's do that puzzle. You see a child pushing something away. You can say, I can see you don't like this. attribute meaning to it. Let's do something different. Okay. You are working with a child and they make some, maybe you show them a picture of their mom and they go, mm. You say, I heard an I wonder if you see mom. So you're attributing meaning to what they are doing. Self-talk is just what it sounds like. You are talking about what you are doing. So I might describe what I'm doing using AAC. I am reading a book. I am going to eat lunch when I'm all done here. Explaining with the AAC, problem solving or exploring by verbalizing as you use the AAC. So problem solving, I feel, I don't know how I feel. My body is tight. I think I feel frustrated right now. So those kind of problem solving things, or even just like, oh, my chair fell over. I need to get it up. I need to pick it up. I dropped my pencil. I need to pick it up. Fixing mistakes, and then commenting with AAC are all ways that um, you can use self-talk. So I might say like, "Oh, I'm hot today. Is anybody else hot?" And I'm modeling that um, on my communication board or communication system. You can comment. You can make a verbal remark expressing an opinion or a reaction. They're always relevant. They foster engagement. They provide meaningful feedback. They foster social closeness and build rapport, and they grow language. So maybe your kid does something that's super awesome. You can just be like, awesome, and you model that. That's cool. I love that. Being responsive means being receptive to, being flexible with, being sensitive to, being sympathetic to or empathetic with, and being aware of what is going on with your kids. So show that you're listening, repeat or recast what they've said to confirm information or to clarify. Reflect and validate. So I understand that that must be really hard. Pause and offer wait time or think time. So just be quiet sometimes. Give kids space to think about what they might want to say or to respond in a way that they want to respond. Show engagement. Be multimodal, engage reciprocally. So if you have a kid who's like showing that they're really excited about something and they're flapping their hands or they're rocking, or you can see that their face is really excited, you can engage in a similar way. You can flap your hands. I see you flapping your hands. You are getting so excited. And there you're doing some of that verbal referencing too. So you can use these strategies together, um, together to give that aided language input. Also giving an out. So I can see you don't like this. I wonder if we could pick something different. Um, or I didn't plan this activity super well, and I can see that this is too hard for us today. Um, just letting them know that sometimes we can stop doing things if it's too hard or it's not working out. We want to attribute meaning. We want to build I am. We want kids to know that they are heard, they are validated, and they are valued. So when they do something, we want to attribute, we always say behavior is communication. So we want to attribute communication to that behavior. I see you running off. This must feel really hard. This must not be something that you want to do. I understand that. You're not telling them that you're not going to do it, but you are showing them that their feelings are valid. This is hard right now. Maybe we could take some deep breaths and then come back to this in a couple minutes. Like we expect so many of our students to comply right away with the directions that we give or with the tasks that we put in front of them. But sometimes we just need to give them space and time. And we need to let them know that we know that this is not the funnest thing for them to do, or this is not the easiest thing for them to do. And it's okay to recognize that. It's okay to honor that school is not always the easiest thing for kids to do. Okay, so during all of this modeling, what might happen during this time? You might have a kid who is engaging in really enthusiastic body language. They're flapping their hands, they're rocking, they're jumping, they might run in circles, who knows? You might increase engagement. So you have a kid who usually seems kind of zoned out, but now they're at least they're looking at whatever the activity is that you're doing. They're sometimes looking at you. They're kind of paying attention to what you're doing. They might be babbling or exploring on their talker or even with their voice. They might imitate things that you've modeled and phrases that you've modeled. They might request things either with their talker or with body language. They might reach for things. They might sustain an interaction. They might also terminate an interaction. So they might just, no thanks. They might run away. They might indicate that they do not want to participate. They might also comment. They might be, they might gasp. They might say, wow, or awesome, or OMG. Like, who knows? There are so many things that could happen when you model. What's required from a student at this time? Absolutely nothing. Nothing is required of a student when you are modeling. I'm not saying that nothing is required of a student at all at school, but when your goal is to model language, we're not really requiring anything from that student in response to your modeling, I should say. So if I model on a device and I say good morning to a student, I do not need that student to respond good morning back. I'm modeling for them. If my feelings are hurt because they don't say good morning back to me, that's on me and I need to manage that. Um, it's not the student being rude. Um, okay, so sometimes modeling is really hard because core communication boards can at times be a little bit overwhelming. It can feel like there's a lot of words on them, and sometimes finding the right word that you want to model is hard. So if you're using a low tech display or like one of our communication boards, if it's laminated, you can just use a dry erase marker to um, circle the word that you want to model or you want to focus on. If it's laminated, you can use permanent marker to highlight that word, and then you can use dry erase marker to erase it if you want that that like box around your word to be a little bit more permanent. You can use things like a finger light right here, or a laser pointer, or this thing that they're calling a focus finder, which is just a circle cut in a piece of paper to kind of highlight words. You can do something called masking. Masking is covering up words to kind of help draw attention to the words that you want to model. So what does masking do? It limits the visual field so that you can model targeted vocabulary. It increases the saliency of targeted vocabulary, so it makes it more obvious. And then it can create compulsory opportunities for repetition. So when vocabulary choices are limited, they're used repeatedly, which can foster learning. Okay, and you need to make sure that the vocabulary that you want to model is unmasked. And you also want to make sure that you are not masking a child's vocabulary all the time. Kids need to be able to explore their communication systems without things being hidden. Okay, so here's a way to mask on a low tech board. Here they have all of their icons are Velcroed on, and the ones that are unmasked have the pieces Velcroed on. The ones that are masked do not have the icons Velcroed on. Here's another way. They've used magnets or painter's tape. You could use Post-it notes to cover up cells on a board. So this is just this is a good quote. Having a communication device doesn't make you an effective communicator any more than having a piano makes you a musician. So we give kids communication devices, and oftentimes we think, oh, we're done. Like, they've got communication. They have a whole device that's dedicated to communication. And they do, that's true, but they are not yet a communicator. They do not yet know the language that's on that device. So once we've got the device, once we've got the communication system for them, that's really just the beginning of it. We still have to do all of the teaching. We still have to have them attend years of piano lessons and do recitals and practice and all of that, so before they can become communicators. So let's recap. AAC is an umbrella term. It means many things. It's not just our dedicated talkers. It's lots of different things. All languages learned through modeling. Modeling means speak your words. Don't feed words to the student. Don't try to put words into the student's mouth. We use verbal referencing, commenting, self-talk, being responsive, and then attributing meaning in order to model. Sometimes you have to think outside of the box to teach and speak AAC. Okay, I look forward to speaking AAC with all of you and to seeing AAC being spoken around our school. So thank you so much for watching this, and I hope it's been useful. Bye. Oh, sorry. If you have questions and comments, feel free to shoot me an email, and I will try to respond to it as soon as I possibly can. Okay, I think that is it. Thank you.